Hi, so today I'm bringing you an update on my 100-day project. So it's day 47 to 57 and I've switched focus because I've got a print fair coming up and need to start making ready for that print fair. So I wanted to create some greetings cards. So I started off by using my 16" by 20" gel plate to print multiple cards at the same time. That was the goal. As you can see, it didn't work out quite to plan. I got beautiful detail, but unfortunately, these edges just would not pick up off the gel plate. Not really sure why. I'm guessing it was to do with drying time and maybe not putting enough pressure on those edges. I will get back to this, but I'm up against it, so it's going to take some time to figure out. So I kind of switched focus again and worked out that I've got lots and lots of wet strength tissue paper as a byproduct of my botanical printing. So I use a wet strength tissue paper a lot when I print with botanicals to pull that excess paint off to give me those beautiful silhouettes. Those layers and layers build up, and then what I've done is I've used those to make these greetings cards. So that's what I'm going to guide you through today. If you do want to have a go at printing them this style, then I will put a link to a video below, because on the 8 by 10 gel plate where I just print one card at a time, it worked perfectly. So rather than show you the whole process where it doesn't work, I'll link the video where it works really well. And you can see by just using a smaller gel plate and printing one at a time how to do that. I also had to go at doing a little notebook cover. I didn't film this. This was just a little bit of me time. It's a little bit rough around the edges, does need some refinement. Once I've done that and had a bit more of a practice, I'll make a video for that for you as well. So for today, let's get on with this one and I'll guide you through this process. Okay, so I'm going to show you my process on how I've created these greeting cards using tissue paper that is a byproduct of my large scale botanical prints that I print on my 16 by 20" gel plate. So again, your papers don't have to be this big. I'm just utilising what I've got. What you need to start off with is some kind of base that you can use to apply your papers to. So I've got a few different options here. I've got some, this is just cut out of a back of a sketchbook cover. So it's just a very heavy kind of card, compressed card. Then I've got this here that's just a square cut out of mat board. And then I found a packet of these that I had in the cupboard. So these are just plywood, and I bought these a couple of years ago with one of the gel summits. There was a lady, I'll have to try and find her, that was printing directly onto the plywood. So I bought these to have a go, and as we all do, we don't get round to doing these things. And these are just plywood that I have washed over with gesso just to take the wood colouring away from them if I need a white background. And some I have just kind of washed the edges in case those edges are going to show on some of my prints as well. So that's where you need to start off with, by finding something that you can use as a sturdy background for your collage. It doesn't have to be square. I'm just using that because I've got these pre-cut cards already that I got from Hobbycraft. So the square fits quite nicely on them, but they could be cut into any shape, whatever you've got around. I'd utilise what you've got. So what I've then done is got a piece of cardboard and cut the middle section out the size of my piece of plywood, and I use that to help me go through my prints and have a look at areas that are going to make nice compositions to go on my collage. So again, here's another one here, and you can see there's lots and lots of layers on this tissue paper. So these are two examples of where they're quite nice and ready to use, where I just wanted to show you this. So they do take a little bit of time to build up. So this is just one layer, and you can see I've been printing with some wild carrot and a little bit of an allium there. And like I say, this is just one layer, and I use the wet strength tissue paper to take the negative space, the excess print from around my botanicals, because I just find it clings to the plate really well and removes the paint really well to give me a really good detail on my botanical. But that means I'm left with stacks and stacks of this stuff, and I just allow it to dry, and I just keep reusing it over and over and over again. And then eventually you will get this type of effect where you've got lots and lots of layers of different colours coming through. And that's what I'm going to be using today. So I'm taking my viewfinder and I'm just going to move it around the page until I find an area I'm happy with. That's going to become my first card. This also helps me get the most out of my tissue paper. I don't want to just plonk it down right in the middle and cut the sheet up and then risk destroying other parts of the paper that would also work to make cards. You can see now I'm just using a pencil and I'm just making myself like a little guide, a very faint line that won't really show when it's glued down to the plywood. So I'm now just cutting around that square and leaving about 1 centimetre on the outside of my pencil line, just leaving enough extra that can wrap around the plywood. So I now need to decide which plywood is going to be best for my design. So you can see on the wood plywood, it dulls the colour down. It does bring a little bit of warmth, but for this particular one, I think the white background will be better in just to make those colours pop a little bit more. So I'm just using Liquitex Matte Medium and a brush, and I've got my catalyst wedge also there. I'm just applying a thin layer of the matte medium to my plywood to begin with, and this is just so I can position it and get it stuck down in place. So once I've got this in the right position, I then peel back a corner and add more matte medium to the plywood and another layer of matte medium over the actual tissue paper as well. I then use my catalyst wedge, working from the inside out to smooth that paper down and make sure it's adhered really well to the plywood and get rid of all the wrinkles. And I find the catalyst wedge is a really good way of doing this. An alternative is to use like a credit card, that type of thing, and just gently smooth out from the inside to the out to get rid of any air bubbles or wrinkles. So once I've smoothed this down really well and I'm happy with it, I flip it over and just use a pair of scissors just to snip the corners. I just snip each corner. I'm not worrying about it too much because the wet strength tissue paper is really malleable and will cover and bend around the corners really quite neatly. I then apply more matte medium to the edges of the tissue paper and the plywood, and I just bend that over and use my fingers to smooth that down. I use my fingers quite a lot in this process, so I do get very gluey, sticky hands, but I quite enjoy peeling the glue off afterwards. Not sure if anybody else enjoys doing that, but I do tend to find that actually using my fingers to smooth it down to make sure I get a really nice kind of neat edge and stretch it over to make sure it's down on that plywood really well, so we get a nice finish. So you can see now I've gone all the way around. I'm just going back and checking that the corners are all nice and neat. And then there we have our finished plywood tile. And now you need to let this completely dry. So I just wanted to show you this. I'll whiz through the this because it's the same process. But I just wanted to show you, I'd cut the square. I wasn't paying attention, I wasn't concentrating, and I cut the square too small. So what I did is just cut an extra little piece of out the paper, and I'm literally just going to layer one on top of the other. So I just wanted to show you this, so just in case, you know, it doesn't have to even just be one piece of paper you're using. You can use several pieces of paper and overlap them. So you can see I'm just making sure this first piece is really well adhered to the plywood tile before I add the next layer over the top. The other thing to bear in mind is tissue paper, when it's wet, doesn't cut very well. It tends to rip. So you've just got to make sure you're using super sharp scissors if you want to cut the tissue paper while it's wet. Otherwise, you could kind of pre-cut it before while it's still dry, but then you've got to be really accurate when you're placing it down on the tile. And there you go, that's our second tile done. And I'm just going to repeat this process to create a third one. So once these are fully dry, I'm going to mount them on some cardstock. So I've just bought these 6x6 cards from Hobbycraft, and I've just applied some double-sided tape to the back, giving it a really good press down to make sure it's well adhered to the plywood. Peeling back the tape and then positioning it on the cardstock. I'm just doing it by eye. You could measure it out if that's what you wanted. And then once it's on the cardstock, giving it a good press down to make sure it's nice and firm attached to that card. And there we have our 3 final cards. I do have an online course that I'm releasing this autumn, and it's 3 modules. First module is combining calligraph printing on the gel plate. Second module is image transfer, and the third module is the botanical printing. So if that's something that you've particularly interested in, you know, do sign up to the newsletter and the wait list. And in that module, I guide you through how I create these beautiful detailed large scale prints, but also how I'm then building up these beautiful papers at the same time as well. So do sign up to the wait list if that's something you may be interested in.